Marquee families. I'm so excited today to chat with you about Alta Statements, when to get them, what you're looking for, and how to review them. So let's dive right in. Okay, so first thing we're going to look at is just the Alta statement in general. Up here is just a header from your title company. Here is going to be the file number that they will also file with HUD. This is the date in which the Alta statement was printed and any pertinent information related to whatever title company you're closing at. Here's going to be the property address and some specifics about the property address, your borrower, your seller, and the lender. The reason why it's so important to check all this information is, one, to ensure you're getting the correct Alta statement. And then two, if anything is wrong on there, you can catch it to see if it would potentially be wrong on any of the other documents that they will be signing. You'll want to check Alta statements a few days before closing. They're also called settlement statements. More often I've called them HUD statements. It is just the final closing documents that would financially review all of their money that they're bringing in for closing or they're receiving for closing if it's on the seller's side. No matter the side, the seller typically gets both sides. The borrower will only get theirs, but sometimes title companies will give you both just so you can check both sides. The main thing you're wanting to double check is the sales price, which is going to be this first line here. As you can see, it is a debit to the borrower, and then you'll see that there's any credits. The reason why it's a debit is because those funds are actually being given to the borrower from the lender, and then the title company is taking that out to provide to the seller. You'll want to ensure that this deposit right here is their earnest money, so they will just be receiving that back. And then you'll see a credit of their loan amount. So it'll look a little funny, but you're going to see the debit first and then the credits back. The next phase here is going to be any prorations or adjustments. So sometimes there are prorations for propane tanks in different counties, and that's what you'll also see here in this section. Below is where you're going to see any interest rates that's pertaining to the lender. After that is going to be any loan charges, so appraisal fees if they put them on the end, any costs that it would have required for the buyer to pay in order to use that loan. Don't get confused by this section. Impounds means anything that they're putting into escrow for their taxes and insurance. Because there are regulations for the amount of money that can stay in those escrows for lenders, you're going to see what's called an aggregated adjustment here back to the buyer. So it looks like they're taking a bunch of money, but then they're giving it right back because of those regulations. Next is going to be any of your title fees. This is a good time to double check that, sneakily or accidentally, however, that title insurance didn't end up on the buyer's side and actually ended up on the seller's side, and double checking those charges. And the reason why you're double checking them is because we're human, and technically this is an Excel sheet that is performed in the title company, and errors happen, and you just want to be what's best for you and your client. Down here we have our recording fees, whether it's with the county or with the state. And then miscellaneous has anything to do with maybe you have an additional buyer agency fee. Maybe you have a transaction manager that you've put that charge off to the buyer or the seller. This is also where you're going to find your homeowner's insurance charges. Another way I've seen this on the seller side is that those are the commissions that they're paying to both of the agents. And then the final subtotals is where you will have both the debits and credits and what the buyer would be bringing to closing. The reason why we as agents double check this is just to have another set of eyes on the document. It goes through the lender, the closer, and the title company, and just being comfortable and ensuring that you are presenting the right numbers to your client is just going to give you that extra set of customer service and polished appeal for you and your client at closing. And sometimes you just get to celebrate that they might be getting money back for buying their house, which is awesome. And then if we were to scroll down a little bit further, you'll see the opposite side of this where it is the seller side. So you can see that the seller is actually getting a credit of the sale price of the property, and then any of their deductions, which would be their tax proration, Just remember, in the state of Illinois, we pay our taxes in arrears, meaning that they are paying from the date from, say it was May that they were closing. They're paying all of 2020, because we're currently in 2021, all of 2020, and from January 1 of 2020 to the date in which they closed in May to the buyer, so that when the buyer gets the bill, they are responsible for the bill. So how I like to explain that to my clients is, when you go out to eat with your friends, it is you're taking on the portion of the bill and you're paying it with your credit card, right? Well, your friends are going to pay you their portion of the bill in cash. However you want to tee that up, you can. But that's what's happening with tax prorations as well. The seller is paying their portion of the taxes to the buyer. Down here is any of the title escrow fees. And again, those commissions show up. You can see it here, and you should see two of them, unless you're doing dual agency or there is a for sale by owner. Then again, we have our tax recording fees, a payoff amount if they had a mortgage, and then what they would be getting back at closing. So when you get really comfortable with reading these Alta statements and going through them line by line, you will get more comfortable with this seller net sheet. And that'll be something that you can also compare at the beginning of if say you're the seller or even the buyer, at the beginning of the transaction to closing, to see how close you were. That way you're becoming more and more confident about the information that you're giving to your clients. Well, I hope this was really helpful in just reviewing through them. Remember, get them a few days before closing as much as you can. That way you can review them with your client and set them up for success. And then you too can be more confident walking into that closing table. Alrighty guys, good luck, and I hope you have many, many closings.